Hello, hello, most beautiful stars. Hello, hello, good day, good evening, good morning. It is Friday for me, and so therefore I am in love. I don't know about you. I hope you are doing well. This is Friday Sun Series live stream number 3. Thank you for joining. Yes. So the times that videos are being released have been mixing around, moving about. Bear with me, folks. With that being said, Esoteric Tea is a little bit on a hiatus for right now because many of my Saturdays are all getting moved about, changed up. I think I have plans, and then they move to the next, and then they move around. So that's okay. That's okay. Tomorrow night on Saturday, July 19th, instead, I recorded a video that you all can watch, and enjoy each other in the chat. There's many things out there, as in, you'll understand why sometimes I ask questions that seem just like common sense, maybe not so common for me. And then other times when I seem to know a lot of things. And I am Courtney, host of Stars of Morning Light. Welcome, welcome. I see that Chloe came in the chat. Good day, my dear. I am very excited about this episode. I'm very excited about this series. So we started a sun series, so we can talk about the sun, the beautiful sun. Beautiful sun. Well, here's the thing. I have information up here in my little noggin? Yes. But to present it to you, that would have required me going through so many different books, so much stuff. And so I sought out to look for a collection. And I am so happy and excited that it came yesterday. We are actually going to be in the sun lore of all ages. Why am I so excited about this? Because let me read the back to you. Let me read the back to you. This work has been selected by scholars as being culturally important and is part of the knowledge base of civilization as we know it. This work is in public domain in the United States of America and possibly other nations. Within the United States, you may freely copy and distribute this work, as no entity, individual or corporate, has a copyright on the body of work. So, beloveds, for those who have been here for a long time at Stars of the Morning Light, you all know how much I look into the copyright laws on each thing that I present. No matter if it was published in 1904 or published in 2004, I'm looking at the copyright. Beloveds, it makes such a big difference if it is of public domain, an entire book, beautifuls. So that means I could, if we so choose, read word by word and break it down. So I'm not in any strike of any copyright. How glorious is that? How much fun is that? And when I received it and I looked at it more closely than just ordering it, I got to see that it was from William Tyler Olcott. Even more fun that I'm going to get in touch with one of my aunts who has done a lot of the genealogy in my family, because you guys might not know, I'm from an Olcott line. So what would it be? It would be even cooler if this happened to be an ancestor of mine. How fun would that be? So happy Friday. Settle in. If the sun is shining near you, enjoy. I'm hoping it actually starts storming where I am. So I see that Lori came in, Chloe came in. Good to see you, ladies. I do say hello to those in the chat. We are a community here. Some of you that are my regular viewers, I thank you. I appreciate you. And you might be noticing that I'm trying to put out more shorts. I really do want and appreciate people's responses. I really, really do, because we're all learning here, right? We're all developing and growing and learning together. And some of my stuff is even more complex. And I'm going to be putting stuff out there, just personal things that maybe I don't know how to handle, right? Maybe that's what we can do instead of going to AI, instead of going to the computer. We use our community to help us relate and understand how to navigate life. Isn't that beautiful? I think so. Oh, and Seeker just came in. Good to see you, my dear. So 1, 2, 3. The top queens. There you go. Excellent. Let's get started. So this was copyrighted in 1914 by William Tyler Olcott. William Tyler Olcott was born in 1873 or something like that in Connecticut. He actually went to school to be a lawyer, passed the bar in New York and Connecticut, but then never worked as a lawyer. I actually know a lot of lawyers that have done that in their life. He was introduced to astronomy, and he then took that hobby, and he always said it was kind of a hobby, but he dived so deep that he first was writing books about the stars, and those are great books as well. This then came a bit later in 1914, Sun Lore of All Ages. And I got very excited. I'm so excited that we can read this. And he dedicated it to his mother. Oh, so sweet. So, why don't we read from line to line? As I'm sure I will give some commentary. What is great about even where we're going to end today from these readings? Because he opens up with a ton of different examples of Native American, Indigenous American tribes and some of their stories about the sun. And we're not even going to get through all of them. I love that. I appreciated that. And that's what I mean by I am so happy for this collection because do I know a lot of these stories? Yes. And where we're going to end today will make sense as to why I know on this show or on this channel, I have said that the sun was actually originally feminine energy and then it became known as masculine. It's because all sorts of different stories, and that was from some of the natives here, and even some, let's say, ancient westernized stories. We're going to get into it, folks, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. So, the first part, he dives right into the American indigenous native stories. And we're not going to get through all of them, but let's enjoy. Let's learn. Let's come together and appreciate all these beautiful old folklore, myths, legends, tales, retellings, what have you that may happen here at Stars and Morning Light. Go ahead and hit that like button for me. And if any of this resonates with you at any time, please leave a comment below. So, the introduction. In the compilation of the volume Star Lore of All Ages, a wealth of interesting material pertaining to the mythology and folklore of the sun and moon was discovered, which seemed worth collecting into a separate volume. Further research in the field of solar myth revealed sufficient matter to warrant a publication of a volume devoted solely to the legends, traditions, and superstitions that all ages and nations have woven about the sun, especially in the view of the fact that, the author's knowledge, no such publication has yet appeared. So this is the introduction to a book that was released and published in 1914. We here at Stars of the Morning Light love that time period, don't we? We love the spiritualist movement time as we talk about Edgar Casey here, as we talk about all these leaders in the spiritualist movement. Did you know that this guy existed? That he was a little side to that beautiful dinner of different portions of thoughts and ideas and theories and practices. I love it. The literature of this subject is teeming with interest, linked as it is with the life story of a mankind from the cradle to the race to the present day. For the solar myth lies at the very foundation of all mythology, and as such must forever claim precedence. Naturally, there clusters about the sun a rich mine of folklore. The prominence of the orb of day, its importance to the maintenance and the development of life, the mystery that has ever enveloped it, its great influence in the well being of mankind, have secured the sun a history of interest equaled by none, to which every age and every race can contribute their pages. Beautifuls, beloveds, you lovely stars, you little suns, SUNs. This is true. The sun has secured throughout all of history that it is equaled by none as far as its stories, as far as the foundation to all things. The sun, the SUN, the SUN. It's where we get everything. In the light of modern science, 1914 modern science, this mass of myth and legend may seem childish and or trifling value, but each age spells its own evidence, and the all-important present soon fades into the shadowy and forgotten past. It is therefore in reviving past history that progress is best measured and interpreted. The fancy so prevalent among the ancients that the sun entered the sea each night with a hissing noise seems to us utterly foolish and inane, but let us not ridicule past ages for their crude notions and faint fantasies, least some of the cherished ideas of which we boast we transmuted by the touch of the time into naught but idle visions. It is therefore important for the student of history to study the past in all its phases, and whatever can be brought to light of the lore of the bygone ages should have for us a charm and should find a place in our intellectual lives. That was a lot of words, beautifuls. That was a lot of words that William was trying to emphasize because he wrote his own introduction. We don't do that much in today's world anymore. Publications, actually more, I want to say shortly after this, more the 30s, 40s, start asking others to do the introduction for someone's work. It was a sales tactic, right? So he is saying that even though in modern times, 1914, we are learning that when we read these ancient stories that, they say that when the sun goes down at night, it hisses as it enters the sea. Beloveds, we know we're not hearing the sun hiss, right? He is saying, though, let's not discount these stories. Let's not discount anything from the past because actually everything's been built off of that. So even though they might say colorful things, or there might be characters or ideas that we know is not what's going on, let us not deny the essence of the story. It's beautiful. And a student of history is beautiful. It is therefore important for the student of history to study the past in all its phases, ancient, all the way up to current, many phases. And whatever can be brought to light of the lore of bygone ages, so past, should have for us a charm, a delight, an enjoyment, and should find a place in our intellectual lives. I, yes, I agree, William. I agree, William. And then there's a note to the publishers, a thank you note um, to the publishers and his editor and what have you. All right, folks, let's get through it. And this book is also full of great illustrations. I don't know how well it's going to come up when I show it here on the screen because they're very dark print. Chapter 1, The Solar Creation Myths. And beloveds, if you hear any noise, it's because my husband just came home from work. I'm doing this much later in the day. And I'm hoping that a thunderstorm comes through. So, chapter 1, let's settle in, everybody. Solar creation myths. In the literature of celestial mythology, the legends that relate to the creation of the chief luminaries accompany no small part. It was natural that primitive man should, at an early date, speculate on the great problem of creation of the visible universe, and especially in regard to the source whence sprung the sun and the moon. This great question, of such vital interest to all nations since the dawn of history, presents a problem that is still unsolved even in this enlightened age. For although the nebula hypothesis is fairly well established, there are astronomers of note today who do not altogether accept it. So William is saying that since the beginning of time, he referred to the debate and as a problem in the discussion of what is the sun, what is the moon, what is going on. This was printed in 1914. He's referencing ancient from the beginning of man, that of course we're talking about what is this? What is that? What are these things? What is this earth? Who are we? Since the beginning of mankind, we have been discussing these things. We still don't know. We still don't know, and I just love that. It makes me so happy. I The speculations, the conversations, science has taken us so far, but we do not know what these celestial bodies are. The myths that relate to the creation of the sun generally regard that the orbit or the orb as manufactured and placed in motion by a primitive race or by the god of light, rather than as existing before the birth of the earth. In other legends, the sun was freed from a cave by a champion or sprung into life as the sacrifice to a life of a god or hero. These traditions doubtless arose from the fundamental belief that the sun and the moon were personified beings, and that at one time in world's history, man lived in a state of darkness or dim obscurity. The necessity for light would suggest the invitation of it, and hence a variety of ingenious methods for procuring it found their way into the mythology of ancient nations. Of all the solar creation myths that have come down to us, those of the North American Indians are by far the most interesting because of un- the uniqueness of the legends and their great variety. Sorry, I paused there for a moment. Anyone who is new to Stars of the Morning Light or anyone who is listening to this later, please note I am going to read the word Indians. Um, this was published in 1914. We, as a nation, as a peoples, we do not use the word Indian so much anymore, right? We use the word indigenous or native. I am going to use the word Indian because it's in print here. Um, he also, though, I don't find this too often. He gave credit where credit's due to each tribe, to what story goes to each tribe. When I saw that and read that, it warmed my heart, right? So I just want to make that very clear to anyone new here to Stars of the Morning Light. We would expect to find the same myth relating to the creation of the sun predominating as regards its chief features among most of the Indian tribes. On the contrary, the majority of the tribes had their own individual traditions as to how the sun came into existence. They agree, however, for the most part, in ascribing to the sun a state of darkness or semi darkness before the sun was manufactured or found or placed in the sky. So he's going to start going into the different tales, the different mythologies from the indigenous people from the North America. And he's saying they all have different stories. But the one thing that is kind of like this underlining idea, theme, and this is why we study history, is that the earth and us humans, the earth and its beings, its creatures, what have you, there we were in darkness or some semi darkness, some kind of obscure sight. This also plays into when we read things of like the Nagamati scriptures, and they talk about the forgetfulness, which they reference that as the fog. So here at Stars Morning Light, we have heard me talk about the fog repeatedly. All of this stuff intertwines because the sun is the light. It is what relieves us from not just the forgetfulness fog, but it is what relieved us from the darkness, the abstractions, the semi-darkness originally. It's never changed. The great tribes of the northwest coast believed that the raven, who was their supreme deity, found the sun one day quite accidentally, and realizing its value to man, placed it in the heavens where has been ever since. According to the Yuma Indian tradition, their great god Yoke Pa, thank you. I'm trying to do this right for everyone. According to the Yuma Indian tradition, their great god Yo-Ke-Pa or Uk-Pa created the world and then the moon. Perceiving that its light was insufficient for man's needs, he made a larger and brighter orb, the sun, which provided the requested amount of light. So think about that in their tradition, the moon was created first. Well, Earth, then moon, and then, oh my goodness, this is not enough light. We need much more light. Let's create a sun. Last episode with this, I talked about some stories refer to two moons. So sometimes in these stories, it was we had the earth, we had the moon, then it was like, let's make another moon to make it more bright. That still wasn't enough. So now we got to make a sun. In the Kuni'as, in the Kuni'a tribe, believe that the sun was created by the coyote or the chicken hawk out of a ball of grease. But the Cherokee myth that related to the creation of the sun was more elaborate and seems to imply that the deluge myth was known to them. I apologize, everyone. I am going to shut the door. This is why I don't go live at this time. I have husbands coughing and walking, dogs in and out. So give me one moment. I apologize. Samson, out. Oh, it's a happy Friday. The world has opened up. The world is opening up at a time that I am not used to. That's why, going live is fascinating. We enter into everyone's lives. You enter into my office and how birthdays starting to pile up over here and all this stuff. I love that aspect about live because you never know what's going to happen. And I'm not in a studio. I'm enjoying my space. Um, and it's Friday. It's Friday. The world's opening up. When the earth, so this is now the Cherokee. When the earth was dry and the animals came down, it was still dark. So they got the sun and set it in a track to go every day across the island from east to west just overhead. It was too hot this way, and the red crawfish had its shell scorched in bright red so that its meat was spoiled, and the Cherokee did not eat it. The conjurers that put the sun another the conjurers then put the sun another hand breadth higher. So I am not sure of the distance of that. Hand breadth higher in the air, but it was still too hot. They raised it another time and another until it was even 7 hand breadths high and just under the sky arch. Then it was right, and they left it so. Every day the sun goes along under this arch and returns at the night on the upper side to the starting place. So I do not know if the Cherokee, now living down in the South, I'm becoming more familiar with Cherokee. But it did reference island here, that there's an island, there's an arch of the sky, like a dome, and those who conjured up the moon and what have you, conjured up the sun, placed it on this track so it would just keep going around. It was too low, so then they put a hand's breadth. I'm not sure what that means. A few multiple times. until they got it right. Hmm. This myth reveals a brief, common to many of the Indian tribes, that originally the sun was much nearer to the earth than now, and this scorching heat greatly oppressed mankind. Strangely enough, although it can be nothing but a coincidence, the nebular hypothesis of modern science predicts that the solar system resulted from a gradual contraction of the nebula. This implies that the planet Earth and the Sun were once in comparatively close proximity. I am also a believer of that. And so many of these stories, as he just said, not just this Cherokee one, many stories reference how the sun was closer. Among the Huguenot Indians, there was a tradition that at one time the world was composed of rock, and there was no such thing as fire and light. The coyote, who of all the animals was chief in importance, told the wolf to go up to the mountains till he came to the great lake, where he would see a fire which he must seize and bring back. The wolf did as he was ordered, but it was not easy to take the fire, and so he obtained only a small part of it, which he brought back. Out of this, the coyote made the moon, and then the sun, and put them in the sky where they have been to this day. The significant feature of this myth is the fact that, contrary to general notion, the moon's creation antedated that of the sun. The explanation of this seemed incongruently appears in the legend of the Yuma Indians given above. The moon, although created first, and that's what he was saying, that in a lot of these stories, the moon is created first, did not give sufficient light. Hence, it is necessary to manufacture a source of light of greater power and luminosity. The legends of the Mission Indians of California reveal an altogether different view of the situation. In the myths cited above, the sun was manufactured to add to man's comfort. In the following legend, the Earth Mother had kept the sun in hiding, waiting for mankind to grow old enough to appreciate it. So when the time came, she produced the sun, and there was light. Beloveds, that can also go into um, different scriptures, as we talked at the beginning of when we start studying history, myths, legends, stories, what have you. We have to look at all of the phases of what has been said, because there is this underlining thread of the same being said. So, Earth Mother had kept the sun in hiding, waiting for mankind to grow old enough to appreciate it. So, when the time came, she produced the sun, and there was light. The sun, sun. Beloveds, this goes into stories of the Nagamati scriptures where all that transpired with Sophia. This goes into this, even the story of, Osiris and Isis. This goes into the story of Christ, right? Or actually, more, it could also be of the Old Testament, the Torah of, Joseph and whatnot. So the stories repeat. They repeat. So we look for all the dots that connect. In order that the sun might light the world, the people of the earth decided that it must go from east to west. So they all lifted up their arms to the sky 3 times and cried out each time, Cha, cha, cha. And immediately the sun rose from among them and went up to his appointed place in the sky. So Mother Earth let it out, but the people were like, "Whoa, you're too close. You're too close." So all the people raised up their hands, and beloveds, I do believe that is ka, 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 as in what they screamed, what they yelled. And I know this from other material, let's say. It's this kind of more throat speak, ka, 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 ka. So, and I will tell you, beloveds, you can use that ka, ka, ka. It's very throat, ka, ka, when you are communicating with sky elements. Just a little fun fact that I do believe still work to this day because I practice and I know. One of the mean Indian sun myths reveals a novel tale to account for the presence of the sun. These Indians regard the earth as a bodied of darkness in primitive times, but far away in the east there was light which emanated from the sun woman. The people wanted light very much and applaud and and appealed to Coyote Man to procure it for them. So the mean Indian tribe, that is Mewan, pronounced as mean, they are saying that they knew that there was a little bit of light over there. So they talked and wanted to have the sun woman closer. Sun woman, hence not masculine energy. The people wanted light very much and appealed to Coyote Man to procure it for them. 2 men were sent to induce the sun woman to return with them, but she refused the invitation. A larger number of men were then sent to bring her back, even if they had to resort to force. We're talking about the SUN, the sun we know of today. They are telling a story that she was actually feminine, and all the people in the east were kind of receiving her light, and the ones on the west went, "Hey, we know she's there. We want some. We're going to send men to go get it." First by invitation, second by force. There are many stories of such. They succeeded in binding the sun woman and brought her back with them to their land, where she never after afforded people the light that was so necessary for their well-being. It was said that her entire body was covered with a beautiful radiant shells of, oh geez. You guys know those shells? You find them everywhere that reflect the light, right? That reflect the light. The light which shone from these was difficult to gaze upon. They're across the sea. They're on every seashore. Think of our glass, like when we move glass. There are shells out there that do the same. So as she's basically kidnapped from the east, it's like she's kind of dropping these shells and putting these shells everywhere. So that light will reflect back to us and we can use that light. So because she's decided she's not going to ever give her entirety to these people. And it's interesting because the earth, as we know, as far as science, the sun comes down and the earth actually reflects the light back to her. In this oral tradition story from the Mean tribe, she's feminine, she's taken, and she said, "You're not going to have all of me. I will send my light down and it will be reflected back up." Iridescent, beautiful iridescent shells. Isn't that impressive? And that is kind of where I wanted to end today because, beloveds, we're just starting this journey with this book. And William has already gone through so many different tribe stories. And I see that Kim came in. Good to see you, my dear. And I can read every word here. Sun Lore of All Ages by William Tyler Olcott. A collection of myths and legends concerning the sun and its worship. And I want to leave on this because this chapter keeps going quite a distance, but I wanted to leave on this because many times here, I have said originally that in many ways, the sun and the moon were both seen as feminine because they were both seen as giving life. Like we need the sun and the moon as a life source, right? So therefore, they both had feminine attributes and were seen as feminine energy. There are multiple ancient stories that represent it that way. At the same time, there's also multiple representation of it having masculine energy. Within all of these stories, it's probably a mix of the two. Within all of these stories, there is an underlining thought, idea, concept, what have you, theory, that start connecting the dots for all of the phases that came later. So once again, I'm going to read, because this is why we do this, right? This is a bit of why we do this. Because then you guys can start putting all the dots together for yourself, right? That is why I do love Manly P. Hall so much, because that is all he did. He just read a lot, traveled a lot, saw a lot of stuff, talked to some great mystics, theorists, all sorts of people. He also read other people's material. And then he just started connecting all the dots. That's what he did. He did not do anything more profound or less than. That is what he did. And is, in my opinion, that if we all kind of did that, we would see that there really isn't any kind of separation. There really isn't, as there is no separation between us. There's really no separation between who we are of today and who we were then and who we will be in the future, and between science, religion, thought, theory, mystic, metaphysical, spiritual, occult, what have you. Because when we can find those themes, those elements that are absolutely similar in every single evidence, story, myth, legend, that is what we focus on. Kind of like how Benjamin Franklin said, the Bible is mostly dung, but 20% of it is diamonds. Look for the diamonds. The diamonds are those little parts that connect everything, or those very clear messages. And it's usually those very clear messages that is the connections. It is therefore important for the student of history to study the past in all its phases, and whatever can be brought to light of the lore of the bygone ages should have us charmed. I'm going to use past tense. Should charm us, should make us feel, oh, that's wonderful, and should find a place in our intellectual lives. So I do. I think every single one of those stories was wonderful. How many of you knew that in some traditions, it's not the wolf that's mighty? It was the coyote. It's the coyote that is telling everybody what to do. Was that that was the Huma tribe, I believe. Was that the Huma tribe? I believe so. Oh, wait, no, that was the Yukut tribe. I apologize. The coyote, who of all the animals was chief in importance? The coyote. Of all of the animals, the coyote was number one. Fascinating, right? Because there are many stories then out there about coyote. So in this story of how the sun came into being, which is then first, right? This is one of the first of all tales about creation because the sun is needed for the illumination for life regeneration. Um, for that, then we have to put it into the context of then every story that came out of that tribe, the Yukut tribe, which I believe it's a northern tribe, right? But lots of, I believe, more Canada, that kind of tribe. I'm not positive on this. Then when we read every story from them, we have to put into the context of when they're talking about coyote was the most important animal, period, of all of the animals. This is why we go back to the sun, because to really understand oneself in relation to the earth, in relation to another, in relation to past, present, future, we draw upon the sun. We draw upon the sun. It is the beginning, the middle, the end, the constant. It is the constant. It is the source of our infinite awareness and regeneration. So everything you put into these little awareness bubbles, awareness dots, that then start clustering together to form your own opinion and idea about the sun and your relation to it. So that is why we are here, folks. And I think it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a great fun time. And it's Friday. So choose love. Love yourself, love another, love the divine. Say hello to the sun if you're catching this and it's present in your world. Because isn't it glorious to know that that's there? That is always going to be there. The sun and the moon and the earth for us. Whew, we should get back to it as much as we can. So I love you all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Do enjoy. And once again, Saturday night, Esoteric Tea is a little bit on a pause. Schedules are kind of nuts right now, and we're going to see what's going on further down the road. But I am releasing a video, personal stories from my high school life. Oh, who I was back when and who I am now with the concept of talking about assuming all sorts of stuff about others, self, what have you, and how that plays out with a little bit of, yeah, personal. You guys get to know who I was. I'm glad I'm not that anymore, but she's still in me. So enjoy. I will see you all later. And a new message from Archangel Gabriel is coming out. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Bye, everyone.